Welcome to another episode of Classic Rock Reviews.
Unfiltered.
Mike, and Dave, and special guest Sean Doherty.
Rock and roll. What's up, brother?
Sean.
He's the. We'll get your shameless plugs in right now, so we'll see how many of our 20 subscribers come to your next gig.
Yeah.
Um,
Tell everybody what
Tell
your
us
next
what
gig
you do.
is.
After the Fact. I'm in a band called After the Fact, and we're got a gig coming up at August 2nd, August 3rd. So check us out. After the Fact.
Awesome. They're very good. They are fantastic.
Also, before we start,
yes,
if you're watching this, you have to like and subscribe right now. So
he's our marketing guy.
even before you decide if you like it or not, you have to like it and subscribe to it. So we have 20 subscribers right now as of today. So we need a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Because we're worth it.
Well, I think that you, for the intro, you give us a little guitar riff. For the intro, we'll pay you for it, but I think that would give add a little bit color to our reviews, huh?
Absolutely.
No pressure.
Let's do it. Yeah. Make a
Now,
little,
do you get your
a
guitar?
Little.
Come on, right now.
So we will get an intro at some point. So as everybody knows, who have listened to us before, we do classic rock albums. We got about 150 groups that we chose. Each one of us, Dave's not here tonight, but each one of us picks an album, and then it doesn't have to be our favorite album. It could be just an album we want to explore a little bit more of the group, maybe some deep cut albums, tell some stories, what the songs perhaps meant to you or still mean to people. Talk about maybe some of the instruments that are played, because everybody knows guitar, bass, drums, but sometimes some of the groups we've talked about have very interesting instruments. We try to talk about that. So today we are back in black. You can see right now we all have our black shirts.
This is a Kiss t-shirt inside out.
This is a Dakshana shirt from work, a foundation that I actually give money to. So I don't know if I'll have to edit that, because we can't make money off this either.
This is a Kohl's special black T-shirt.
Sweet. You look good.
Thank you.
So we pick our favorite or an album from the group. We pick our top 4 songs from 4 to 1. And again, we just go through it. And I don't know if you picked top 4 of ours that you like of the album, or you just stayed with your album, right?
I can do. I didn't do top 4 of those albums,
But you could have
I could
spurred the
pick
moment.
a few favorites.
You could.
There you go. So let's get into it. AC/DC, Australian band. We're going to do our first Australian band. They formed in 1973 with the brothers Malcolm and Angus. So let's describe their music. Hard rock,
Boogie.
blues,
Hard rock boogie.
Definitely.
hard rock boogie, blues. Would you say
Blues.
heavy metal?
I wouldn't-
Because there's
wouldn't
not
say
2
heavy
guitars, right? Like electric.
I would say the Brian Johnson era is more heavy metal than the original lineup. Music, I feel like the music got a little bit heavier in the '80s, than the original band.
Sure. That
The
could have
original
been a-
band, I think, is
yeah.
more. It has a beat that you can dance to. It really does. You
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
That's why I say boogie. Because it kind of makes it move.
Def Leppard was one of the, I guess AC/DC was an influencer
Yep.
of their music. So the current lineup is Angus on guitar. Cliff Williams is the bass guitarist. Phil Rudd, still around, is their drummer. Brian Johnson, their lead vocalist, and rhythm guitarist Stevie Young, who's the nephew of one of the Young brothers. They originally had, before they actually had any studio albums, AC/DC actually had a vocalist. It wasn't Bon, it was Dave Evans.
Right.
Um,
They played bass too.
yeah. So he was kind of their vocalist when they were doing gigs and stuff like that. But they eventually sacked him just because his voice wasn't.
He was the original bass player.
I don't know if he's original bass player because they've had so many members.
Yeah.
I mean, on their albums. I mean, their original on their albums.
No,
No, he wasn't.
there's Mark Evans,
Mark
which
Evans.
we will get to Mark Evans. We're
got
going
it.
to
I
add
think
it
I
a little
screwed
bit
that
here.
up. Okay.
There's Mark Evans,
Yeah.
and no relation to Dave Evans.
Okay.
Dave Evans, the original vocalist.
Got it. Okay.
And so they kind of sacked him right, like 74, sometime in 74.
Got it.
They knew of Bon Scott. But I saw a documentary on ACDC. I don't know if it was a Let There Be Rock documentary. And this Dave Evans was on it tons. He might as well have been the narrator. But he seemed really appreciative of the band and everything. Never, didn't really talk. Didn't seem like he was bitter at all. But he just apparently didn't have the chops they were looking for. Yeah, so Bon Scott replaced Dave in 1974, and then of course Brian Johnson replaced Bon in 1980. Yeah, I mean, 7 months after the release of Highway to Hell, Bon Scott died of alcohol poisoning, and the other members considered disbanding, but the parents apparently wanted them to kind of continue on. You have a story about the night in question when he got
Yeah. So the night that he died, which is February 19th, 1980.
Our mom's birthday.
Yep. He went on a bender. Apparently, he had been writing lyrics for Back in Black, and went on a bender with some friends and got just blinded out of his mind. And they went back to the house, to his buddy's house, and they couldn't get him out of the car. He passed out in the car, so they left him there and to sleep it off. And when he went out the next morning, they found him, and he died of alcohol poisoning. So I'm sure the cold didn't have,
Yeah.
didn't help. So,
Right.
but I would say, I thought, why would you leave somebody in the car like that? But probably happened a lot. Probably happened.
Yeah, this wouldn't have
more
been the
than
first
once.
rodeo.
And so they were like, he'll be fine. He'll sleep it off. We'll get him in the morning. So
Right.
awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of liken, in some ways, AC/DC to Genesis. You've got your Bon Scott era, right, from 74 to 79, and you got your Brian Johnson era from 80 on. And I don't know, Genesis fans, there's very, oh yeah, it's Phil Collins, or no. I go with, is it like that with AC/DC? Do you guys think?
I don't think it is.
I don't think it is either.
It's like that with Van Halen.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, no, I don't. I think there was almost like a seamless transition for some reason.
Yeah.
Who knows why? I guess maybe because he died. Bon Scott wasn't
Yeah.
replaced or
Yeah.
kicked out or quit. Maybe that's why. Who knows? I don't know.
And the music stayed the same.
Very much.
Whereas Genesis was very prog,
Okay.
Peter Gabriel, and then very poppy Phil Collins. But I do think you're onto
Not
something.
right away though.
No, not right away.
It was a transition
Yeah.
over a few albums. I thought you meant.
So, but they, this is the type of group that pretty was unapologetic about, their, 50 years of rock and roll. They kept the same albums throughout punk, throughout new wave, the grunge scene, the pop scene,
Hair metal.
hair metal, the whole
Right.
thing. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's true.
they had a loyal following, and they just really didn't care. I mean, they are the power chord. I mean, they are.
Riffs.
All riffs.
Yep, all riffs. And short solos. Not long drawn out short solos. Melodic short solos that fit into each song. Each solo has its own kind of melody to it. And amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much all their songs are pretty compact.
Yeah.
Especially the Bon Scott era. It seems
Very
like
much. Yeah.
those are all like pop songs. It's like 3.5 minutes. It seems like, you know. Um,
And all about sex and drinking.
And balls.
Cheers.
And balls.
And balls.
What is their obsession with balls?
Yeah.
I gotta,
They're
it's-
like teenage boys.
Yeah.
I know.
She's
I remember
got big
hearing
balls.
she's got big balls when I was not even a teenager. It's probably like 11 or 12 or something like that. It's like,
Yeah. So why don't we? Yeah. So why don't we kind of get into? We could talk about a little bit more about the band after we do our uh, picking our albums. So why don't we go around the horn? So I mean, I'll go first. I took their 1978 album Power Age.
Yep.
Sean, what did you pick?
I took Back in Black.
Okay.
I have Let There Be Rock.
Yeah, you'll go last. Mike Doherty picked this one, and this is a great band. I mean, I gotta admit, I know a lot of the ACDC songs, but this isn't a group that I really listened to a ton growing up. I've talked about my high school buddy. He had a yellow Camaro,
Nice.
and we used to go driving around, Chicago Heights.
That's how you met Cam in that Camaro, right? Isn't that?
We'll edit this one too.
He had the Mr. Microphone,
Yeah.
right?
Hey, good looking. Yeah, I tried to get outside, but he didn't have a moonroof, and I kind of hurt my head. But we used to drive out, and he used to play ECDC all the time. Back in Black was the huge one at the time. And but in college, I heard a lot about him, but it's one that I really never heard the radio plays, but really didn't dive deep until I did like these past couple of weeks. And it's really cool. It's really cool to listen. I did. I listened to all the albums,
Everyone.
every album while I was working.
Yeah.
But I did listen to every album. My personal favorites are more in the Bon Scott era.
Oh, for sure.
But I mean, there's some very good albums of
Yeah.
Brian Johnson. I mean, Back in Black's a masterpiece. Just amazing. He comes in the band, boom.
Yeah.
Second greatest. Well, at the time, I mean, until recently, they were one of the second greatest selling albums of all time.
Right.
So,
If you don't include like a greatest hits package, then maybe they are the second greatest hits. Or
They
the
don't
second.
even have a greatest hit.
No, I mean because
Yeah.
like the Eagles' greatest hits is
Oh.
number one.
Oh, there you
Right.
go.
So if you discount that and you say regular studio albums,
Yeah.
it's like Michael Jackson, Thriller,
Right.
Back in Black, and then I read the Hotel California.
I think one of Whitney Houston's albums are really
it's up
yeah.
there too.
Yeah.
Bodyguard.
Yeah. I'm not sure which
Soundtrack.
one, but yeah. And then Bad is number 5. Michael Jackson had 2 in the top 5.
Is that right?
That's how crazy it is. I mean, they did not change their formula at all
No.
throughout their whole.
No.
And who knows? They might be up for another album coming up here, right? I mean, are they still
Yeah, they have
recording?
They
one
have
that
one
just
out
came
right
out.
now. Yeah, and they're touring in Europe right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It came out
Yep.
last year, I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was Black Ice, and then what's the very? I'll have to look.
It's like
Yeah.
something.
I think it's Power Up.
Yeah,
Power
Power
Up.
Up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw some videos of them playing at Wembley Stadium.
Yep.
Yeah.
cool. All right, well, I'll go first. So my album is Power Age. It's the 5th studio album, and it was released on May 5th, 1978. This was the band's first album to feature Cliff Williams on bass, and it was also the first AC/DC album not to have a title track. So I don't have a lot of stories or song facts on these songs. I think I have one that they went into detail, but I really don't. My 4th favorite song on the album is "What's Next to the Moon."
This is good. I didn't really I really didn't know Power Rage that much. I loved the cover. The cover is awesome, right? He's like this, and he's got the
Short
wires
circuit
coming
wires.
out.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at that album cover when I was a kid and everything like that, but I really didn't know the album. But I've listened to it probably like 10 times over the last couple of weeks, and it's like right up there, you know, one of their best ones, I think.
And the funny thing is, one of their best deeps, because I don't know. I mean, there's not too many that got radio play on this album.
And I don't think they play any live either. Like in their current.
Sin City, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if they play that live,
Yeah.
but I mean,
Yeah.
that's a
Yeah, that's the one you would know.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I just like, again, this album to me is very riff oriented. I mean, which you'll know when I pick, my top song.
I heard Joe Perry is one of Joe Perry's favorite ACD songs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So that is my fourth.
It seems like this album, the songs were more had more depth to them than the Dirty Deeds. And, what's the first one? Power is
high voltage.
High Voltage. All great songs, but this seems to have just a little bit more depth of, and maybe that has to do with the bass playing. Maybe that has to do with adding some new life to it. I don't know, but the songs are just a little bit more, I think, kind of complex.
Yeah. We'll talk about Mark Evans, the bassist, and what happened, him getting sacked. As
Vocals,
well.
right? I think vocals.
He didn't have the lead vocals. We'll talk about that. They weren't happy with his lead vocal, or backing vocals.
Yeah.
Okay, so my third one is Rock and Roll Damnation.
Nice. This is a good song.
So this was the final track recorded during the Power 8's sessions after the record company persuaded the band to go back into the studio and come up with a radio-friendly single that could garner some airplay. That's the thing. They were trying to get that.
I don't hear any signal.
Yeah, right. But it charted in the UK. It peaked at number 24. Features a lot of hand claps and maracas and does not have a traditional guitar solo, unlike a lot of other AC/DC songs. I could listen to it until they sue us.
You just have a great beat, don't they?
Yes, the groove.
It's just
boogie.
They're super tight as players, and it's like the craft of their songwriting, even from High Voltage. I mean, it's just perfected.
Yeah.
I don't know how long they toiled, playing in the clubs or whatever before they recorded their first album, but they are so tight,
Yeah.
to be able to have that kind of beat that you just naturally want to move
Do
to.
this.
That
Yeah.
doesn't just come by accident.
Right.
That's like a lot of practicing, in order to get that way, or to get tight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to have that same groove throughout your entire set, your entire album, to have the same groove, but different melodies for lyrics and different guitar riffs, but the groove of the bass and the drums is consistent. It's consistent, making you, want to.
And it's harmony.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's Cliff Williams on bass doing the harmony, but that was one of the reasons why in their first few albums they weren't really happy with Mark Evans.
Yeah.
So, maybe they were just adding pieces.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Addition by subtraction. So that's my number 3.
All right.
My number 2 is Sin City.
Nice. Love this song.
Oh yeah, there we go. Riff. almost that. What do you do for money?
Yeah. Na, 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 na.
Yeah. Just change a couple chords
Yeah,
here and there.
yeah.
They're like, I don't care if it sounds like that. We're just cannibalizing our own music. Fuck you guys.
See, it's that beat again.
Yeah.
It just makes you want to
Yeah.
move, And when you watch like Angus like playing on stage, he's always like
Yeah.
playing like this all
Yeah.
the time. But and maybe that's an exaggerated
Yeah.
movement, but the music makes you want to
Yeah.
move.
Yeah, and Cliff and Malcolm, the same
Yeah.
thing. They have their cadence that
Yeah.
they're doing, right?
Right.
I mean, it's perfectly crafted stage
Yeah.
presence
Yeah.
for that band,
Mhm.
really.
Yes, absolutely.
And then
Because
then
like
it's the
Malcolm Young and
harmonies,
Cliff
they
Williams
walk
are
up.
always
Yeah.
like here, and Angus is like roaming around, and Brian Johnson or Bon Scott is kind of always in the middle, and they have that. You can tell that they thought about that.
Yeah.
That wasn't by accident.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Malcolm Young always looked so cool when he was playing.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
His hair was like
Yeah.
over his eyes, and he was like singing the backup vocals, and the microphone was just a little too high,
Yeah.
you
And how big did the
Yeah.
guitar look on him?
Yeah.
Right? He was probably, what, 5'6", 5'5", or something?
Yeah, they're little.
They're little guys.
Yeah.
Giant guitar.
Uh-huh. And Angus with that Gibson SG is
Yeah.
just like perfect.
Yeah.
It's just a perfect guitar
Just strutting
for
around.
that image, they had.
Awesome.
Yeah.
4/4 beat, man. They perfected
Yes,
that.
they own it.
So that is my number 2. And my number 1, I am a sucker for a riff-raff.
Riff-raff. Good one. I like this song a lot
this is
too.
awesome. Like 30 seconds of this. So they were the trio of writers. They all got thanks, Mike. So they all got 1/3 credit, I guess, on all the music that was written. So got it. All the albums. Yeah. I don't think Cliff Williams or I don't think he got into anything. I think it was all the 3 of them, and then with Brian, it was just Brian was substitute for Bon,
Right.
and they kept going.
Right. Yeah, the two of Malcolm and Angus, the guitar riffs and different. Like what they're playing is not the same. The perfectly rhythm guitar riff, lead guitar riff, and it just gives that depth sound, which is amazing.
It is amazing.
You
You were
play
saying
this?
the other day. It's like, I don't know how many different chords or notes or whatever they play. Probably not too many, right? But
G, C, D,
none
and
of
A.
none of the songs really sound alike. They were like so imaginative with their riffs and everything like that. That it's the same notes, but they're just played different ways, and,
Right.
and they're all very distinctive.
Yeah.
It's amazing like how many riffs. I don't know if Angus Young gets the credit he deserves for riffs, or if Malcolm wrote those riffs. I have no idea, but people always think of riffs so like Jimmy Page or Richie Blackmore or Tony Iommi or something like that. But AC/DC has just as many, if not more, riffs.
This riff has a little Led Zeppelin quality to it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a little
Like
fast.
rock and roll.
Uh-huh.
A little fast.
Yeah, like rock and roll. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah. That's true.
Yeah.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, I could hear that. Yeah.
You got to strut across the front.
Yeah, you got that schoolboy look. I know.
So great.
Yeah.
So great.
So those are my top four of the
All
album.
right. I'm going to go second, and I'll tell you why. Back in Black, obviously, is their masterpiece album, so we'll save that for last.
Okay.
Okay, we could do that.
Yeah. All right. So I have Let There Be Rock. Let There Be Rock. And was originally released in Australia in March of 1977. And the international release was July 25th of 77. So it had a different album cover, much better album cover. In fact, the international one, I think. And the track listing was different. The only difference, though, in the track listing was that song "Problem Child" replaced the song called "Crapsody in Blue" on the international release. One of the interesting things, yeah,
That's great.
isn't that funny?
That's great.
It was that Tchaikovsky, right?
Yeah,
"Rhapsody in Blue,"
Yeah.
Or
right? Or no? Is it?
it was somebody Leonard Cohen. I don't know.
Yeah.
Bernstein, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
Whatever.
that'll be a different podcast.
Yeah, we're gonna be editing
Yeah,
quite a bit.
when we
here.
do the classical.
Yeah, we
podcast,
will,
we'll talk
and
about
we'll
that.
get there.
Edit her out.
Yeah, interesting thing is that in on Dirty Deeds, which came out not in the U.S. but in the rest of the world, came out in '76.
Yeah, Dave was supposed to do Dirty Deeds, by the way.
Problem Child is on Dirty Deeds,
Right.
Yeah,
which is in '76, the original international release, other than the U.S. And it's on Let There Be Rock too. And the only difference is that there's like a coda or whatever. Like it goes right back into the intro at the end, like briefly for like 10, 15 seconds, which always seemed odd to me. When you hear it on the radio, it sounds like the song is starting over. You're like thinking, oh, maybe the DJ didn't realize that to take the record off or something, it's starting over again. But anyway, that's the difference between the two songs. On Dirty Deeds, the song starts over again briefly. But for whatever reason, and I can't figure out why, Problem Child is on both Dirty Deeds
I
and Let
noticed
There Be
that
Rock.
too. Yeah.
So, Let There Be Rock went double platinum in the U.S. and went gold in the U.K. And one of the interesting things about this album is that they went into the recording of Let There Be Rock with kind of like an us against them kind of mentality, because they had learned that Atlantic Records did not like the Dirty Deeds when the album was delivered to Atlantic, who was their label for the U.S. They didn't like it, and they didn't release it. And in fact, they were going to drop AC/DC from the label from Atlantic, and eventually their AC/DC's manager was able to convince them not to drop them from the label. However, they still didn't release Dirty Deeds until 1981. So not until after Back in Black had come out and became a huge success, then Atlantic released Dirty Deeds, which is, very confusing, for, I would say, for the American public, In fact, AC/DC was pissed about that.
Well,
and
and
it's the
it's-
one album that is very, like, I don't know, the cover is so distinct. I remember seeing it in the record stores
Yeah.
all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
And maybe,
right, with the black
yes.
things over their eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I remember hearing on the radio when I was a kid, like, must have been in '81, hearing Dirty Deeds on the radio and thinking that's a brand new song. But in fact, that's like a 5-year-old song, but it was not released in the U.S. until '81. So,
It is confusing because
Yeah.
anybody who, I mean, Brian Johnson has his own distinct voice. It's like, wait, is that Bon Scott?
Right.
He's dead,
Right.
right? Why is that out?
Good
I mean, I can
point.
see a lot of
Yeah.
confusing
Yeah.
things with that.
and AC/DC was not happy about Atlantic's decision to do that because to re-release or to release it for the first time so soon after Back in Black, because it took away from the sales of both Back in Black and For Those About to Rock, We Salute You, which came out in '81.
Yeah.
You know, so it's kind of a really misguided strategy or whatever. I guess they just wanted to
Money grab.
capitalize on it,
Yeah.
you know, on their success.
Yeah.
So, but I got Let There Be Rock, I would say, when I was in, I want to say, 6th or 7th grade. So that would have been around '81, '82. That was the first AC/DC album that I ever had. And that's why I picked it, because it has like kind of a nostalgic, you know, place for me. And so my fourth song is called. Hold on, gotta find the album on my.
Wait for it.
Hell Ain't a Bad Place to Be is my number 4 song.
One, 2, 3, 4.
The 4-4 champions. I'm good. Yeah. What do you know the chords to these? This is like, that's G, some G, something. A little different.
Yeah, that's a variation there. Da-na-na-na.
His voice. I was talking to Sean when you were out. When he was in Fraternity, which I listened to that album, Fraternity. It was a band that Bon Scott was in
Okay.
prior to AC/DC. If you listen to his voice, very progressive rock. It's very melodic and very cool. This is a rock and roll voice that he has. But if you listen to Fraternity, he like holds notes. He's got a vibrato. He's got it's. It's like it's almost like a different person. You know.
All right. And I don't have any stories about these specific songs either.
Yeah.
My third song is the aforementioned Problem Child.
Unbelievable.
Very simple, but awesome. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not.
And dry. The riffs are dry.
What's that mean?
Punch. It's like a punch, like like There's no.
It's like a staccato.
There's no delay
Right.
on it. It's very punch you in the face. Like the riff is like the beat.
Right.
You know. It's amazing.
Yeah. You know what? I was trying to figure out what the difference between the Bon Scott era and the Brian Johnson era, and I think that's the difference. I was trying to figure out what the word was. Like staccato, I think means like ba, 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 ba,
Yeah.
right? And there's no lingering kind of bed or whatever. Like if you listen to like Back in Black, or if you listen to For Those About to Rock, there's a the background, the rhythm guitar kind of, and maybe there's like cymbals involved in that as well, like ride crash cymbals or ride cymbals or whatever. There's a background kind of sound that which is most rock groups have, that kind of like a bed or whatever, where the vocals are on top of, or the lead guitar is on top of, or whatever. But these are the early songs, like the Bon Scott songs. Most of them, I would say almost all of them, they don't have that. It's like there's like a lot of air or space in between the notes and everything like that. You can hear silence in between.
Yeah.
That's, to me, is the only difference, other than their voices.
Yeah.
All right. So that's Problem Child. It's an awesome song. And my number 2 is a whole lot of Rosie.
Oh yeah.
Be the conductor.
Can you see me conducting these guys? He'd be like, this would be Bond.
With his missing tooth.
Yeah. I heard he got in a motorcycle accident. Pretty bad one.
Yeah.
Recently?
No, what I mean, Bond
Oh.
Scott back in the day.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I think that's how he lost his tooth.
Yeah.
Not a good-looking guy.
When he,
Bond's not a great-looking guy.
they were saying what one of his issues was when he got bored, he did wild things, and that was one of them. And he went, and he crashed and did all kinds of crazy stuff. He would go on these long benders or whatever because he was bored. Just had to occupy his brain.
Did you watch the? I had the same. There was another documentary where it's actually his brother. They interviewed his brother,
Great.
and his brother had never been interviewed before. He said, "This is right at the very beginning." He said, "I'm only doing this once, and I'm not saying it again."
Yeah.
And it was really interesting.
It was.
And
What's
one
that?
of the things that some of the singer or the group members said is when he got bored, and he said absolutely that when he got bored, he just started doing outlandish stuff.
What is the documentary called?
It was just a 30-minute thing. It was
It was
a special, I think, probably maybe in Australia. You
Yeah.
know, that or the UK. And Brian Johnson was the kind of like the opening moderator for it, and then it just went into clips, like those interviews.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah.
They have a little known man. I didn't know his name is Ron.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Oh, really?
Ron. Yeah.
Ron Scott?
Yeah.
Doesn't have the same ring to it
Yeah.
for some reason. Ron Scott is like your insurance agent,
Yeah.
right?
So his brother is calling him Ron in the
Oh.
video, right? Yeah. Yeah. Now, what do you like about this song so much? That
I don't know. I mean, it's like a whole lot of rose, a whole lot of woman. I mean, it's just a fun song. It has a lot of energy to it. I can only imagine them seeing them play this live. It's kind of screaming that.
Yeah.
Whole lot of woman, whole lot of rose. That would have been, that would have been a lot of fun to see them back in the day. I've never seen them
Yeah, I haven't either.
obviously when I was only 10 when Bon Scott died, but I've never seen them in concert at all, so I have to put that on the bucket list. Hopefully they don't break up too soon. All right, so my number one is the title track, Let There Be Rock, which this song is amazing.
Yeah, you can see
Oh, yeah.
Angus
yeah.
on the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Little feet. You and I had the same 3 through 1.
Oh, yeah?
I had Dog Eat Dog as my 4th.
Okay. Now, this song, I can tell you exactly what I like about this song. That song is like, it goes,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I like Let There Be Rock. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
There was a good time. He's like God, right? There was a sea.
Yeah.
No, there was
Well, you know what? In the video, Bon Scott is wearing like a sort of like a priest kind of like robe thing, and he's like kind of like on a podium or whatever. And Angus has like a halo over his head. It's awesome, and he's got like sort of like an altar boy kind of like outfit on, and doing the same, kind of like roaming around and everything.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. So great album. Um, Sort of my introduction to ACDC, pretty much, I would say. Uh, it's hard to say exactly what was the first ACDC song that I ever heard. I think I heard a lot of their songs kind of all at once, because they got real popular with Back in Black, obviously, in the US. And I was 10 when that came out. And that was kind of all over the radio, all over, the loop or WMET or whatever. Uh, and then Dirty Deeds was released right after that. That was all over the radio. And then for those about to rock with Salute You. Uh, I bought, I got Let There Be Rock for like Christmas or something like that. And then I had bought from my friend Andy, If You Want Blood, their live album. And, it's like a perfect, you don't want to reduce them to kind of a junior high or high school kind of mentality, but they really speak to boys of that age, 11, 12, 13-year-old boys. I mean, it's just that's like a kind of like a, it's that, I don't know, just the subject matter is kind of,
Balls.
yeah, balls. I don't know, it's something about them just really appealed, uh, especially at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got balls.
Plus, they have the really cool logo.
Big balls. Ball breaker.
This logo here.
I got you
In
by the
fact,
balls.
I read that this ACDC logo, the famous logo, Let There Be Rock was the first album that was on. Okay. That they used that. And remember, Sean and I and my brother Ryan, we had a clubhouse that was called the Fort, and we would take markers and we would draw like logos of groups like Led Zeppelin, and we try to draw the Rolling Stones' tongue, badly, and the Loop,
That's right.
and we tried to draw the ACDC logo and Kiss and all that stuff, and it was all it was like graffiti in there, pretty much. It was great.
You still have those albums? Let There Be Rock or no?
No, I don't, because I was stupid.
I didn't take them.
I was stupid when I was younger, and I would buy albums, and then when I needed money, I would sell them, and I was dumb. So I regret that a lot. There's a lot of albums that I go, I had it, don't have it anymore. Um, those are a couple of them right there. But I do have the box set, Bonfire, which is awesome. And that came out in 1998 or something around that time. It's like a tribute to Bon Scott, the Bon Scott era.
I mean, think about it. When that album came out, you had disco at its peak. You had punk at its infancy.
And
you had
its
these
peak in England. Yeah.
peak in England. But then you have these guys, and they'd only been around for like, what, 2 years, 3 years. And I wonder if that's why they weren't labeled dinosaurs, right? I mean, if they'd been doing the 60s, they were doing rock like Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin was considered dinosaurs by the time Presence came out or In Through the Outdoor. And I want ACDC it didn't hurt them. It didn't hurt them like other bands. I don't know why. You would have thought people say, hey, rock and roll's dead, right? Or it's getting there.
They seem to be a band that just kept doing what they were going to do. They toured relentlessly. Relentlessly. Tour. I mean, a month in between tours, right? They finished this tour. A month later, the new album is out, and they're on tour for that album. And I think when you do that, it's kind of like Iron Maiden a little bit. You just build this following that it's not a critics band, it's not a hugely all their albums are selling crazy amounts, other than Back in Black. But I think just that momentum just continues to carry and build and build and build.
Yeah.
You can't be denied.
Yeah, they built it from the ground up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the just speaking to the dinosaur kind of thing, the dinosaur groups that were considered dinosaurs in England. I mean, those groups, nobody in America thought that, right? But in England, they're so finicky and things are so short lived that they just want to keep on moving to the newest thing and everything. I've heard a lot of British, I watch a lot of YouTube videos with British rock groups and stuff from the 60s and 70s, and there seems to be a kind of a tendency to want to just what's new, we're going to move to the new thing, they're old now, um, the groups that were considered dinosaurs were the ones that were progressive rock groups, right? And the groups from the '60s, and kind of like the groups of excess, like Led Zeppelin. Uh, I don't know if the Rolling Stones ever fit. They kind of always had that kind of punky kind of attitude with Keith Richards. But like Genesis and Yes and Emerson, Lake and Palmer and um, just a lot of 70s groups. But ACDC didn't really fit into that mold. One, they kind of had that sort of punk kind of um, sound in some ways that, punk kind of harkened back to the original days of rock and roll, right? It's like short, fast songs, right? And, three chords and all that stuff. And ACDC kind of has that as well. And all their songs are very short, compact songs. They're not long, drawn out solos. And, they didn't have that kind of like rock god kind of image like Led Zeppelin had and all that stuff, So maybe that's why they kind of transcended that era where they were able to pass through that 76, 77, 78 kind of like punk kind of revolution in England, where that didn't hurt them at all. They were able to just kind of just run right through that. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
All right, so that is Let There Be Rock, and now we are going to pass it along to my bro for their masterpiece, Back in Black.
Back in Black. The timeline on Back in Black is absolutely unbelievable. February 19th, Bon Scott dies. April 1st, they officially hire Brian Johnson. They record Back in Black in the Bahamas because no studio in London was available. It was cheaper in the Bahamas, so they went to the Bahamas. They slept with iron rods because of Haitians would have tried to attack and steal their stuff. So they recorded from April and May. They played their first gig with Brian Johnson June 29th. The album comes out July 25th. They're on tour from June 29th of 1980 all the way to August 20th of 1981, and touring on Back in Black. They're off for less than a month, and then they're back on the road for Those About to Rock for another year.
That's amazing.
It's unbelievable. It really is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah.
And the story of Brian Johnson in a band from up until 1978. He's in Geordie, right? And moderate success. They were kind of like Slade, is what one of their comparisons were. And when he basically decided to stop, he was done. The band had broken up, and he decided, okay, well, it's time for me to grow up. And in 1978, he got a real job, opened his own business, had a kid, a daughter, and was just playing local gigs, and decided that that was it. Rock and roll. My dream is over. And
How old was he at this point?
he was 32 when
Yeah.
he got, and so he was 30 when he decided to stop. So 32 when he got.
Yeah.
That's just crazy.
That's amazing.
Yes.
I didn't know that he was that much older
Yep.
than the rest of them.
So was
Yeah.
Bond.
So was Bond. Yeah, Bond was
Was too?
33. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew that.
yeah. But interesting story. So the reason that he got into AC/DC was because of Bond had told them about him. He was in fraternity, and they opened for Geordie in 1973 at a couple of gigs, and Bond saw Brian Johnson and what he was doing and how he was singing and his stage presence, and he years later told them about this guy and how great he was, and so that was in their head. And but funny story, that night, one of the nights that they played together, and back in 1973, they had a tour bus. Fraternity had a tour bus. They were the opening band, but they had this big giant tour bus, right? And they play the gig. Jordy goes back to they had like a Airbnb kind of place, the rental house that they were staying in. And 3 o'clock in the morning, there's a knock at the window, and the fraternity band is standing outside the window. Their bus had broken down, and they needed a place to stay. It was freezing outside, so they opened the window, and they pulled fraternity into their house, and so they partied the rest of that night. And it's just a crazy story. It's a crazy how that all happened, and then 7 years later, he's in ICDC because of that
Yeah.
that interaction.
Just happenstance.
And Brian was cool to him,
Yeah.
right? And Bond was cool to him, and so there was a divine intervention, I'm sure. So, to make a long story short, that was Brian Johnson's introduction into ACDC.
So Bond dies in February. Did they even get a chance to mourn?
2 days.
2 days.
Yep. And Bond's parents said,
So keep going.
get back at it. Yeah.
That's just amazing.
It is.
And I guess that's a way of being able to be distracted and not really think about it. I'm sure they all had their moments, right?
Yeah.
But maybe they take it back in the studio. Yeah. We got our singer. It's almost like Bond interviewed him, knowing that maybe something might happen. If anything happens to me, you guys got another singer.
Right.
It's crazy.
And probably a great idea that they were in the Bahamas, that they recorded there, and that they weren't in London. They weren't around people that were, that they would be mourning with and distracted and whatever. They had to go do what they had to do.
Get their suntans.
Yeah. You can imagine those guys.
They'd be like me when you take your shirt off. It's like, Mike. It's like Rudolph. That nose. Oh, that back. Jesus. Put your shirt on.
Oh. All right. Well, my first song from my fourth song from Back in Black is actually the first song on the album, Hell's Bells. And the tracks that how they put this album together, 10 songs, is absolutely masterful to me. With the opening bell on an all black album after Bond died. I mean, it just was like, I don't know if it was planned that way, that or it just they just kind of listened to all the songs. I bet Mutt Lange probably had a lot to do with it. It was the second album that was produced by Mutt Lange, first being Highway to Hell, and then this one. And so, but that opening bell, and it rings and it rings and it rings.
It's ominous.
Yeah.
It's like a death knell kind of thing.
And what I read is they actually they tried to do it in a bell tower, like in a church, but they couldn't because the birds, I guess, kept screwing with with the sound,
Okay.
and so they had a special bell made, and then they brought their recording equipment to the bell where it was being made,
Okay.
and they recorded it there. But then what they did is I guess they lowered the sound, not the sound, but they like down tuned it basically, so it was a lower, deeper
Mhm.
bell sound, and so it really is that deep ring.
Mhm.
So the first song, my fourth song, is Hell's Bells, and
What an opener.
the lyrics, are just phenomenal. They said Brian Johnson said that it was storming outside. It was like just crazy, crazy storms, and uh, just listen. You listen to the lyrics. It's uh, you know, power, thunder, pouring rain, coming on like a hurricane. Uh, you're only young because you're gonna die. I mean, it has so much power to it,
Mhm.
and but with a different start than most of their songs up to that point, right? Every other album, it's like dun, dun,
Right,
dun,
right.
dun, and they come
Four,
right
four.
into it, right? But this is like a slow kind of
builds,
build.
Yeah. True.
So it just has so much. It just has so much like power and depth, and then to be surrounded by the depth of Bon Scott, it seems perfect.
Yeah.
It just seems
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah. I always figured that. I've always I guess it just made sense to me. I don't know if I ever knew this or read this, but it just made sense to me that House Bells and Back in Black were song Back in Black were related to Bon Scott's death. It's like, okay, we're back. We're back in black or whatever. Um, sort and it's a tribute in a way. You know, um, I don't know if that's ever been if they ever said that that was the
Yeah,
behind it or anything like that, or if that's just what people read into it. I don't know.
yeah,
But it is the perfect kind of tribute to him.
yeah,
You know, I think especially the song "Back in Black." It's
yeah,
like the lyrics just dealing with, you know, um, I'm loose from the noose.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm like, something from the grave or whatever. You know what I mean? It just seems like a resurrection or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah. yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, no, this is a fantastic. It's like the perfect song to open the
Yeah.
album.
It really is.
It is.
It is.
Yeah.
And my third song is the second song on the album, "Shoot the Thrill,"
Love it.
and that takes you right back to AC/DC.
Yeah.
It, bam,
Right.
bam,
That's a real
bam,
old style
bam,
kind of
bam,
thing for them. Yeah.
bam, bam, yeah.
Yeah.
Which and it's like it brings, it's like, okay, thank you, love you, all right, we're moving on, and let's get back to
Yeah.
it. I mean, which is
Right.
basically what they did, right? They
Yeah.
had the funeral. 2 days later, they're back in the studio doing what they do because that's what they do.
Right.
But this song,
This definitely has
Yes.
like an old style
yeah, yeah,
to it. It kind of stands out on this album
yes,
as that harkening back to the
Yes.
original style of their music.
And taking nothing away from Brian, but wouldn't you love to hear Bon
Yes,
do
I
this
would.
album?
I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he writing any of these lyrics?
So Brian Johnson wrote all the lyrics for Back in Black,
Okay.
but Bon was writing lyrics for Back in Black too, and
Okay.
he had a whole notebook of them. But they decided that because because he wasn't going to be crafting the melodies and the vocals and all of that, they decided to let Brian Johnson do it, and so they didn't use any of his lyrics.
Okay.
And this was the first time that Brian Johnson had ever written lyrics before. In Geordie, he was the guitar player, was the songwriter, and he didn't write lyrics. This was the first time.
It's
And
amazing.
to be the second greatest album like selling of all time on your first go around,
Right.
and
And
not
these
just
are great lyrics too.
right, and not one song, not two songs,
Keep going.
4, 5. I mean, the whole album is
10.
iconic.
There's not a bad song on
There
Back
isn't.
in Black.
There isn't.
Every single song is great and memorable.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there are some songs that are definitely Bon Scott style, like grooves that, you know, they had to have just either had some of these songs like the riffs kind of thing, you know, going. I mean, they just never stopped writing.
Right.
They write one album after the next. So
Yeah.
I mean, they were probably riffs that just kept on growing.
Right.
They probably didn't have the album name at that time when Bob was writing, right? He was probably just writing for whatever the next album would be, right?
Correct.
It wasn't
And
like,
right, I don't
our
know
next
the
album's
answer.
going to be
Yeah.
Back in
Yeah.
Black. And blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. Yeah.
So
God, which
so-
you will have to get. I mean, where
Yes.
are those writings,
Yes,
right?
I'm
I mean,
sure
they're
their
in
family
his
has
estate,
them.
right?
Yeah, that'd be really interesting to see those.
But so all Brian had was a song title. So they gave him the song title, and they gave him the riff, and then he went into his hotel room basically and just wrote. And Mutt Lange was like, "Keep going, you know, keep going." Like he was really hard on him, you know, to keep at it, and you know, helped him with some lyrics and things like that. But yeah, so
It's crazy.
all right. So, and this part here,
I love this part.
I love
Yeah.
this. Awesome. And it's still on their set today. They're still playing this one, which is great. All right, my second song is "Have a Drink on Me."
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
This
These lyrics are awesome.
correct, and I think this is a homage to Bon as well. When I hear it, it has that groove. It has that that just kind of like carefree Bon Scott kind of attitude to it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I don't
Yeah.
know.
If you're a believer in the afterlife,
Yeah.
you wonder if Bond had a lot to do with, we have made it, and you're going to keep it going, and I'm going to inspire you in
Yeah.
so many ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
just so seamless. I mean, you don't see that.
Yeah.
You know?
I think it also took it took a special person. If you listen to Brian Johnson talk, he's like your brother. Really, he's like a family member. The way he talks, he hasn't met a stranger in his life. Is just kind of a salt of the earth kind of guy, and I think it took somebody like him that didn't have a huge attitude or kind of thing. He just, all right,
it's
boys,
just
let's do this. Let's rock. And he just has that.
He's humble.
Yes, super humble.
You know, he's very deferential. He knew, like, hey, it was set up on a tee for me.
Yeah.
But you know what? He had a lot to do with making this masterpiece. He had to write all the, like you said, wrote all the lyrics, and really a ton of pressure.
Yes.
To take that mantle and just run with it. All right.
Yeah. Even What Do You Do for Money, honey?
I know.
I mean, it's unbelievable.
Yeah. I've been singing that song for like the last 3 days.
It's crazy. Let Me Put My Love Into You. That it's such a sexual song, but it has such a cool groove to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Giving a dog a bone.
Yeah.
Yeah. All it's the whole album. And that's not even including You Shook Me All Night Long.
I know.
Yeah. Which is probably their biggest hit song,
Which is just unbelievable.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. All right. So my last one
Is this recording now?
It is.
Okay.
All right, so my last one is Back in Black. It's just too, I mean, absolutely unbelievable riff, and that, very unique for the style of writing that they
Yeah.
had done up to that point. It has the staccato riff, bang, da-na-na, da-na-na.
Yeah.
It has the drums, it has the bass, but then it adds this other piece to it, which is like, it's that.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mhm.
You know, um, yeah. And you're right, Mike. The lyrics to this song, uh, the first verse, absolutely awesome. Back in Black. I hit the sack. I've been too long. I'm glad to be back. I'm let loose from the noose that's kept me hanging about. It's been looking at the sky because it's getting me high. Forgot the hearse because I never die. I got 9 lives, cat's eyes, abusing every one of them and running wild. I mean,
If
if
that's
that
not-
is not Bon Scott, you know?
Yeah.
And I believe I listened to Brian Johnson's book, and he was like, yeah, he was flowing through me for sure.
Mhm.
You know, he was definitely flowing through me, and great lyrics, cadence, just like syncopated, you know, rolling off the tongue, and uh, crazy.
How do you sing like that? I mean, you're a vocalist. How do you not ruin your voice? And there's like, I can count on my hands, like, Chris Cornell, I can count on my hands, guys that are just up in that register. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's not that high up. It's more like but it just seems like his vocal cord should be shot.
He speaks like that though too.
Oh.
So his speaking voice
Yeah.
sounds exactly like his singing voice.
True.
So I think it's just too, it's just what it is
Yeah.
for him. And but yes, absolutely. If I try to sing anywhere in that range for, a few notes, I'm coughing. Trying to sing like that.
Yeah.
So it's unbelievable. I could sing a little more like Bon Scott than Brian Johnson. I can't even touch his songs.
Yeah, when
Yeah.
he gets up.
Yeah. Right. Thunderstruck.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think I've ever heard anybody sing Thunderstruck as good as him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I like this part too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of that, when we had a party here in this very yard, in 2002, and Sean's original band C Factor played here.
Another plug. You want to do another plug?
cfactor2.com.
Now you're known as After the Fact.
Yes.
After the Fact. But we played. It was like the fall of 2002, and I sang 2 songs with Sean's band, and "Girls Got Rhythm" was one of them, and I didn't realize how difficult that. I'm not a good singer anyway, but I like to sing, and I didn't realize until I attempted to try to sing it when I was practicing how difficult it was to sing that high. I didn't even know that it was that high. You know what I mean? It doesn't sound. It's like you think
Yeah.
about Scott's voice is like it's kind of like a growl or whatever. But it's very high,
Yeah.
and so Brian Johnson's voice is very high as well. It's gruff and it's like that, but it's high.
Yeah.
It's hard to sing, and I did my best. I'm sure it sounded very bad, but it was fun. It was fun. It was a good
Did
time.
anybody videotape that? Was there any big cameras back
No.
in that day? No. No.
Well, nobody videotaped it. That
8
that
millimeter?
I know of.
Yeah, it was so old. It was like,
There's some pictures. There's some pictures of me singing.
did you have your
Um,
shirt off?
No, the buttons were down.
No,
to
although
here.
I could have pulled that off back in the day.
This is back in the day. Mike had
Back
his
in the
shirt
day,
off a lot.
I took my shirt off all the time. Not because I had good abs, but because I was thin.
He was hot
at that
He was
time.
like,
Yeah, no, that was when I was 32, and I was before I started being able to gain weight. So I still looked good at that time. I sang that, and I sang "Sympathy for the Devil,"
I think
which
I
is
was at that party.
yeah,
I do remember
you
Sympathy
were.
for the
Mhm.
Devil, right over there. Were you over there?
Yeah, right
You
in the
guys are there,
corner
right?
by the shed.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it was fun. It was a good time. My dad was playing guitar,
Yep.
and that was great. And my son Jack, who was 2 at the time, sang a song as well.
Did he?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was, but there's a photo of him singing.
Skidamarink, dinky dink, skidim. That one?
Probably.
Yeah.
I wanted to tell like a quick, funny story about ACDC that I have from when I was in college. Um, this is in 1990, probably, and there was like a kind of like an evangelist kind of person doing a lecture, right? Like obviously, he rented like one of the conference rooms in one of the school buildings at Iowa, in University of Iowa in Iowa City, and he put up flyers all over town and everything. And it was the gist of this seminar or whatever was like like you know Satan's influence on rock music or something like that. You know how that at that time
Yeah.
in the 80s and early 90s, that was like all the rage, right? You had Judas Priest was sued for supposedly putting backward lyrics in a song that convinced somebody to kill themselves.
Right.
And same thing with
Black
Ozzy
Sabbath.
Osbourne.
Yeah.
And ACDC was um, supposedly influenced this Richard Ramirez, who was like a serial killer. Um, uh,
Is he the nurse killer, Richard Ramirez?
You thinking
No.
of Richard Speck?
Okay. Oh,
was
no,
just like-
Richard Ramirez, he was on West Coast, right?
yeah,
Yeah,
it was
California.
like 83,
Yeah.
I would
Okay.
say. And
Yeah.
so, he, mm, you know, and it was an easy kind of like thing for the media to grab onto, right? You look at all the album covers of ACDC, like Highway to Hell,
Exactly.
Angus has got the
The
devil
horns.
horns and the tail. And, I mean, I think in some respects, a lot of bands kind of, um, although they claimed that they were not trying to capitalize on that kind of like imagery or whatever, but obviously a lot of bands did.
Yeah.
Black Sabbath for sure did. If you look at the album cover, Bloody Sabbath, I mean, it's like a perfect example of that. But there's a lot of bands in the 70s and 80s that, sells albums.
Did you go and listen to the seminar?
I did.
You did, okay.
Yeah, I did. So anyway, yes, thank you for bringing me back to that.
I was going to, but thank you.
All right.
So anyway, this guy was talking about how heavy metal and hard rock music was, influencing or corrupting the youth, right? Based with satanic imagery and stuff. And one of the I brought this up last week or a couple weeks ago when we were talking that he was talking about the cover of Rush 2112, right? And he was saying, okay, so this album cover has a pentagram on it. And I actually, in this seminar, I hope the barking is not too loud in this video. I actually raised my hand. I said, that's not a pentagram, that's a star. And he goes, yeah, well, if you turn it upside down, it's a pentagram. I go, if you turn the American flag upside down, there's 50 pentagrams then. I actually said that. Yeah, I did.
Oh my God,
yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Did you get kicked out?
No, he just disregarded what I was saying.
Sinner.
Yeah, sinner. And then he was talking about Blue Oyster Cult, that their logo has some sort of like hook thing underneath it that looks like a question mark. There's like a cross and a question mark. And that means that they're questioning Christ or whatever, right? And that's what he said. And then of course, he was talking about AC/DC, and he showed a picture of the Highway to Hell album with Angus Young with the devil horns and stuff. And it's funny that then he would play like clips of the music, and he played Back in Black and he played Highway to Hell. And as soon as he started playing them, everybody in the audience went, bam, ba-da-da. Everybody was like moving to it. You know,
it's like exactly my point.
Yeah. Turn that off.
Yeah. That was just funny. It was funny. You know, because that, you know, and the popular myth in the day was that AC/DC stood for Antichrist, Devil's Child, and you know, just
Not according to
stupid.
their. It was Margaret Young, the sister. I guess she was a. I don't know if she used a sewing machine, but she saw AC/DC on her sewing machine and said that'd be a great name for a band.
Right, that's like an
they used
electrical
it's an electrical.
terminology.
Yeah, alternate current,
Yeah.
direct current.
Yeah,
I think is what
Right.
technically is what that means.
there you go.
Prepping for this, I watched some videos, like some old footage, and I don't know if it was on that one about Bon Scott or it was on a different one, but they were. This was probably 1980. This is probably when Back in Black came out, and they had a concert, and it was outdoors, and the interviewer. It wasn't so much an interviewer as much as reporting on the concert and the people there and everything. And she said she called them Akadeka.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that was the term. That was the Australian term. That's
Oh.
what they called
Oh, there you go.
AC/DC. They called them
Okay.
Akadaka. I mean,
Okay.
that was like the term.
All right, there you
Don't
go. I
know
didn't
why,
that.
but
Huh.
that was their name
Okay.
out there.
Akadeka.
Man, hilarious.
Yeah. That's really
Wait, what?
funny.
So they were inducted in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2003 by Steven Tyler, who probably inducted a lot of those guys. In fact, it was kind of it was a very cool induction. But when you get to the actual acceptance speech by him, it's like a minute 25. I can't find anything. Like normally they're 5, 10, 15 minutes long. And I really wanted to hear what they all said, but Brian said a few words and that was it. And maybe Angus said a couple things.
And then they played.
And then they played.
Okay.
And then they played live. But
That was an 03.
that was an 03. And the story was, as you looked in the band members that were on the stage, Mark Evans was visibly not there. Okay, it was noticeably not there. And when the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 2002 in November, when they picked them, and they said they gave the list. They said, here are all the members, and Mark Evans was on there with Bon Scott. 6 weeks later, his name's off.
Oh.
He got snubbed, and I don't know if it's because I don't. They say something in one of the, and all my stuff is from Wikipedia, right? But what they said was that he was in. I don't know if he sued AC/DC, but there might have been some issues there, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is like, you know. But I don't know if the band members had anything to do with it, and that's weird. I don't know if the band members can say, "Hey, wait a minute, no." He was, he was our bassist in some of our early stuff.
Yeah.
First 4 or 5 albums.
Yeah, I've heard different things about that. That when Kiss got inducted, they wanted only the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame only wanted Ace, Peter, Gene, and Paul, and Paul and Gene wanted Eric Carr, Bruce Kulick, Eric Singer, the guys that have kept them going for 50 years or whatever. And I guess they said no. So, yeah. So Kiss decided not to play at the induction because of that.
Yeah.
So they got inducted, but they didn't perform because of that. So
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the guys, and I don't know who it was. It was from one of the music magazines. Said that Mark was such a nice guy that they could see that. I mean, with his vocals not quite being there, the chops, the backing vocals, and the fact he was such a nice guy, they didn't feel like he was going to be the guy going forward.
Yeah.
So, which which I guess is why they sacked him.
Yeah.
But it was a big deal. I mean, you know, a lot of people noticed that he wasn't on stage, and he's still alive, right? I mean, he was, so
Yeah, it's interesting.
yeah.
It is interesting that Evolution made a lot of those bands. You know, Def Leppard had a original guitarist, right?
Pete Willis.
What's that?
Pete Willis.
Pete Willis, right?
Yeah, he was
on
really
the first
good.
couple albums, and
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. Well, I guess he was like a total
drunk. Yeah,
alcoholic.
Yeah.
They just couldn't. He
Yeah.
couldn't get it together,
yeah.
kind of thing.
He
Yeah.
liked a bit of the drink.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. When you were talking about Brian Johnson, what a nice guy that he seems to be. I actually met him, and he's not. He had an interview show. I don't know if it's still on. It was on Access TV,
Yeah.
and there was, I don't know how many episodes there were. Maybe 10, 12 or something like that, and they were really, really good. He's a really good interviewer because he's just kind of like, you know, a bloke or whatever.
Yes.
You know, he's
Yeah.
just a nice guy, and people like him and they feel comfortable around him, and they don't feel like they're being interviewed. It feels like they're just like talking or whatever. And he interviewed, and it was all like on location
Okay.
and everything like that. So I don't know what happened to the show, if it's still going or not. I would think this probably not, but like Robert Plant, and
Who's that?
he interviewed Robert Plant. Yeah, it's just some guy. Mick Fleetwood, I think, was another one that he interviewed.
And Robert Plant's not an easy interview.
Yeah,
I've heard him in interviews, and he's, you know,
he's very
very cocksure.
curmudgeon-y.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
he won't answer the things that he doesn't want to talk about,
yeah,
kind of thing. You know,
yeah.
you ask him about certain things about Led Zeppelin, and
Right.
he just, you know, he's just kind of, you don't want to know about that.
Yeah.
Just
Right.
kind of blows
yeah,
it
yeah.
off. you
And
know?
like,
It's
yes, I actually
yes,
do.
that's why you're famous. So
That's why we're
why I
interviewing you.
want to know about it.
So talk again. We want to hear it again. Okay.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. I don't remember what it was called, but it was good though. There was a lot of them. I'm drawing a blank on the other ones that he interviewed, but they're all kind of like really big stars
Okay.
like that, you know.
Yeah. So when he had those ear problems, like in 2016, and he left ACDC, and he was in a really bad place, I guess, emotionally, and you know, you have your livelihood taken away from you, right? And so he worked with some, you know, specialists, and they were able to develop a something that could go in his ear that basically creates a new eardrum, and you just put it in there, and it acts like its own eardrum. So he the first time that he sang again was in front of a crowd was at the Taylor Hawkins
Oh yeah.
tribute.
Wow.
Yeah, at Wembley. And Dave Grohl asked him to sing, and he was like, yeah, he was really nervous about it. He didn't know if I think he was 74 at the time. You know, I haven't been singing. I don't know if I still got it. I got these ear problems, whatever. And you know, singing in a room and in a studio is different than singing in a
Stadium,
Yeah.
open air stadium.
Wembley
Yeah.
Stadium, and so, you know, they practiced and did a couple rehearsals, and they handed him a microphone. He went out there and he did it. And
What did he sing?
I don't know. I think they did Back in Black. Yeah, I definitely think they did Back in Black. I'll have to look at that. But and then Angus asked him, "Do you want to make an album?" And he said, "Yep, let's do it." So he was back.
So that was sort of the
Yeah.
impetus to
Yeah.
get the group
Yeah.
back together.
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Speaking of their later albums, I was listening to some of their later ones. Like I think I bought the one. It came out in like 2014. I think it was like called Rock or Bust or something like
Yep.
that. I bought. I actually my wife gave that to me for my birthday that year, and good. It's a good album, you know. And there's like one. And it's called Ball Breaker. I think from '95.
Fancy then.
Yeah, balls. Rick Rubin produced that one.
Oh,
It's
okay.
really good. It's very good. And I had the other day I was talking about for those about to rock, we salute you, and I was saying that because I bought that when it first came out in '81, and
That's
I
the one
remember,
broke, right?
yeah, he dropped the record and it broke. So it's a famous little story in our brotherhood. Um, and I remember really loving that album.
I still have a bruise on my cheek from getting punched out.
I remember really loving that album, and then when we started to listen to ACDC for this podcast, I went back to it because I was considering picking that album, and it didn't like ring true to me anymore. However, I kept at it, and I did listen to it several more times after that, and then I kind of regained the love for the album that I had originally when I was 11 or whatever, and it's good.
Yeah.
It's not great, but
No.
I mean there's some really good songs on there. There's a song called COD, which is Call of the Devil is what that stands for.
COD
Going
is
back-
different.
Going back to
What is
the,
it? Something
the
on
satanic
delivery?
thing, cash on
Cash
delivery.
Cash on delivery.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good song, and then of course, what is it called? Gotta Get It Up or something like that. Or no, Let's Get It Up. Let's Get It Up. That's a great song.
That's a great group.
That is. It is.
Yeah.
It's a good album.
Yeah.
It's not great, but it's good. Some of their.
Yeah, the mid '81s.
What about all the albums that you were listening to from the rest of their '80s and '90s and over, past? What did you think?
Black Ice. I like Black Ice.
Yeah.
That album. I don't know. That's one of their later ones. I like some of the songs on that one. But it really is interesting how the Razor's Edge, how they got their renaissance.
Yeah.
On that, again, during early stages of grunge, rock isn't really prevalent at that time, and yet that album just kicked ass.
It's true.
It really did. It was their
Transcended
comeback
that, yeah.
album, because the 3 or 4 they did in the mid '80s, Flying the Wall and
Flick of the Switch.
Flip of the Switch, and Flick of the Switch, and there was another one.
Who Made Who?
Yeah, there were like 3
Yeah,
or
Who
4.
Made Who? That's a cool song.
Yeah,
That is a good song.
That's an interesting
There's
song.
that Blow Up Your Video.
Yeah. It's funny. Thunderstruck from Razor's Edge, which is probably one of their most iconic songs, really.
yeah.
Emily was watching the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders, like the making of this team or whatever, and that's the song that they come out to, and they were dancing. So it played over and over and over. I kept hearing it. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
what? I'm like, same thing. As
Yeah.
soon as it came on, it was like the kids in the conference that you were at, right? It's like
The
it's
White
amazing.
Sox, yeah. At the beginning of White Sox games, they did this like from 2005, the World Series.
Okay.
For a long. So when they show on the
Well, this is
video,
Hard as a Rock, but
Huh?
which has a similar beginning to
What's that?
Thunderstruck. This song is Hard as a Rock.
oh, but on Thunderstruck,
Yeah.
they show a montage of videos of all the White Sox from like the 60s, 70s. While the song is playing, it's just awesome.
Awesome.
It gets you going.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And then the guys come
Yeah.
out onto the field, and it's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll play that song.
Yeah.
Here.
It just-
Right here.
and he plays that riff the
5
whole
minutes.
song,
Yeah.
which is unbelievable.
Yeah.
How's the rest of this album? I know Money Talks is a popular song.
Yeah.
What did you think of the rest of the
Okay.
CD?
Yeah. but that's enough to get them back on the comeback trail.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's because of the radio airplay, and maybe it is, right? Probably is. I mean, do the songs?
Well, it got them back on the radio.
Right.
They hadn't really been on the radio for
No.
a few years.
Right.
Yeah, and
Probably since
10
Who Made
years.
Who, right?
you're right. The video, like I think I remember seeing the video in the crowd, and it's just like what I mean. They just have this massive crowd, right? And they're singing this song, and he's coming out there playing. I mean, it's all part of the whole package that
Yeah.
like that gets you excited about something.
Yeah.
It's like I want to be part of that.
Yeah.
Was
Right?
this the opening song?
This is the first song.
First song. Yeah. What a great
Yeah.
hits
Yeah.
you right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I wonder how many royalties they make from this.
Yeah, from stadiums.
From
and everything.
stadiums.
Yeah. Well, Hell's Bells.
Yeah, Hell's
Think
Bells,
about that one.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like they and like not ACDC, but Ozzy with Crazy Train is always played in football stadiums. I wonder how much money they make from this.
Penny?
No,
Why
it has
not?
to do with licensing. It's not royalties from being played. It's like they have to pay for the licensing to be able to play those songs in in a scenario where they're making money. You know what I mean? So I wonder if it's like NCAA pays Ozzy or the publisher, a certain amount of money to be played at any kind of like NCAA event, or if it's
Yeah.
like individualized per.
God, if it was
Team,
individualized, that'd be
Yeah.
almost impossible
Yeah.
Yeah.
to keep
Yeah.
track of.
Yeah.
And like the NFL, I'm sure has like, okay, you can play Thunderstruck in any NFL stadium, and we pay you this amount of money or whatever. I wonder. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I mean, awesome.
They do have the whole package.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
said, they have the songs. Like Alice Cooper always says, you got to have the song
Yeah.
first.
Right.
That's the most important thing.
Yeah.
The image comes after that.
Yeah.
You got to have the song, right? So they have the songs. They've got the image. They've got the swagger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They have like the cachet. I mean, over time, I think some of those things have probably become more important. Other things less important. They have the generational kind of following. They have their original, like a group like the Stones, right? They have their original fans from the '60s and fans that are kids, right? I mean, we saw the Stones twice in the '90s, and the crowd is the range is
Yeah.
50-year
It is,
range of people,
Yeah.
and AC/DC is the same kind of thing,
Yeah.
It's like an
Legendary.
event, right? They've graduated to now where they can play a football stadium,
Yeah.
and they probably haven't had like a song, a hit song on the radio, probably since Money Talks or Thunderstruck, right? And that's over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
But they've transcended that now.
Yeah. That's true. Well, this has been fun, guys. I did want to talk about the
absolutely.
bagpipes. Why Bon Scott only did one song, I don't know why. His family played
That's
bagpipes.
right. His dad, right?
His dad, a lot of the Scott family, he only did it once. He sounded great. Don't know why that happened, but
I love it.
thank you so much for joining us.
my
This
God.
was awesome. You're
Thanks
for having
fantastic.
me.
Love
Yeah,
it when you
that's great.
know about the bands. That's really cool.
Dude,
So,
keep
guys,
watching these guys. They're amazing.
until next time, enjoy. Good night.